Welcome to the School of Radiance podcast. I'm your host, a humble human on a mission, here to help you both look and feel your best. In today's episode, we are going to discuss, can Pilates make you more attractive? And also some of the other really fun things that today's returning guest and I do behind the scenes to both look and feel our best in our routines, in our rhythms, in our recalibration time to help inspire you when, something happens like a rough night's sleep, some of the things that can really actually help you feel better. And when you feel better, you're going to look better. Let me introduce you to today's returning guest. We have Lesley Logan joining us here today. She is an NCPT, also a habits, mindset, and breathwork coach, is the founder of onlinepilatesclasses.com, the largest catalog of free Pilates tutorials, and the only on-demand platform that helps Pilates lovers of all levels have accountability and community. Lesley has been teaching Pilates since 2008 and was trained by one of Joseph Pilates' clients, making her a second-generation Pilates instructor, which is important. We're going to talk about some of the things to look for in a great Pilates studio. And we're going to talk about equipment, and we're going to make the tie between the medical aesthetics world and the Pilates world, some things to look at. And Lesley has trained thousands of people around the world and hundreds of teachers, helping women ditch perfection, take messy action, and prioritize themselves first so they can do life better. Welcome back to the show, Lesley Logan. How are you today? And of course, what is radiance to you?
Oh my gosh, Rachel, thank you for having me back. And, I still believe in everything that I said about radiance last time I was on, but I will say today is a special, interesting day. I think the listeners might be able to understand. I had today planned out to go to the dermatologist and do the thing, right? The annual thing. And then I was going to go get the mammogram, the annual thing. And I'm not going. And so the rules are no makeup for the dermatologist. Okay, fine. Not a problem. 9:15. That's my usual. But no deodorant for the mammogram. I live in Las Vegas, everyone. So now I have to drive through Las Vegas, no deodorant, no makeup on. My dermatology appointment was canceled. And as I found that out, I also discovered that the mammogram was not going to include the thing that I needed, which is an ultrasound. And also, by the way, they're not sure my insurance is covering anything. So I had to cancel everything. And the radiance this is where radiance is. They'll sit still and go, please cancel everything. I'm going to take my non-deodorant self to a very fabulous smoothie and sit outside and feel all of my feelings and then digest that. And I think being radiant is also not just going, oh, woe is me. This is this sucks. What can I do for me? And I had the most amazing morning sitting outside, having a smoothie, being myself and filling myself up. So I think you can be radiant and pissed off at the same time as long as you are taking care of you. I think a lot of people think that radiance is oh, she's got her hair put together and she's got the outfit is in check and the fit is in check, all this stuff. And it's and then that's radiance. And actually, like I said last time, it's from the inside out. And sometimes we have outside things that happen to us that can affect our insides. And so as long as you can reconnect to yourself, I still smelled okay because it was only 70 degrees here. But as long as you can reconnect to yourself, you are still going to radiate around people, to the people around you.
I love it. So we call this being adaptable.
Yeah.
We call this rolling with the punches.
Yeah.
Right? Or if you're our generation from Clueless, rolling with the homies.
Exactly.
Sorry, had to drop that in there. Giving away my generation. When you mentioned what's your fit though, this is a new thing in the gym world of your outfit. And someone texted me their picture of today's gym fit though. I was what the heck is that?
Oh yeah, the fit of the day. Oh yeah, no, I do feel really young when I'm I know the slang, I know the lingo, and when I can actually get through the letters of things, I feel so young. And my husband is what is that? And I'm I'm so much younger than you. I'm 6 months younger than him, but I feel so young.
It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny also when you look a certain age and then you start to engage with people who are younger. I'm making it a point to make girlfriends who I have lots of girlfriends who are like 10 years older than me, but to also make friends with ladies who are younger. So we
Yeah.
got to keep up with this stuff.
Yeah,
So
I think so. I mean, like, uh, sometimes, like, my husband said something the other day. I'm like, you, just so you know, you sound like our parents. Like, you sound like I would never listen. Like, why? Who could listen to that music? Like, you just sound like that.
it kind of makes me feel like a square or something. You know, how kids in the 50s or 60s would call the adults squares.
Yes.
I gotta get with the times with, you know, today's fit though terminology.
Yeah.
Speaking of today's day and age, before we started recording, we had kind of some fun banter for everybody tuning in here behind the scenes. What Lesley and I were talking about was how can we talk about how Pilates can make us more attractive, and including cardio and strength and conditioning and things like that. And Lesley mentioned something pretty cool, that when we're looking for Pilates equipment and Pilates studios, there's actually a overlap with the med spa space, with what you're
Mhm.
looking for in a practitioner and
Mhm.
equipment actually in that med spa as well. So Lesley, I thought that was a great thing to talk about. What are some of the things that we should be looking for in a
Yeah.
really good Pilates instructor and studio?
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this because with the first of all, Pilates always like rises in popularity and then like hangs out at a plateau, and then some other celebrity or athlete says it, and then it rises again, and then like so it never is going down, always is kind of going up, but it's extremely popular right now. And what I have noticed is more and more studio owners who actually have never done Pilates before opening things up, right? And they can make things aesthetically look so good. Like they can make everything Instagrammable. So like you want to go there. Like when my girlfriends showed me her studio and I said, "Oh, it's stunning." And I'm sure you get a really good metabolic burn. But if you are expecting the results of Pilates, you're not going to get it here. And she's like, "How can you tell?" And I'm like, "There's not a single image, video, picture of them doing a Pilates exercise. Not a single one. The moves they're doing, fun. Absolutely. Fitness, sure, great. No one's doing a Pilates exercise here." And unfortunately, that is happening more and more and more in Pilates studios across the world, some that are very legitimate, based on people wanting to fill classes versus get results. And I think this is a really important thing to talk about. So what you should look for in a studio, ideally they have more than just reformers. I know people think the reformer is amazing. I'm going to tell you right now, it would be like and doing one part of the skincare routine, but not the other stuff. You could be doing the most amazing, the most sought after skincare routine, and not, if you're not drinking water and sleeping, it doesn't really matter, right? Like you have to have all the other parts of it. So, and I noticed I didn't say like lasers. I was specific about sleeping and drinking water because it's like the bread and butter. So when you're looking at a studio, you want to see that they have classes on different pieces of equipment or private sessions. Ideally, they're making you do a few private sessions before you're in a group class, because then that would tell me that the classes are tailored to not all levels, but like and a level that would tailor it to you and where you're at. The next thing you want to look at is, are the teachers certified in everything? And when I say certified, I should also just clarify. I may have mentioned this last time. Pilates is an unregulated industry. There is actually no government, anything that's making sure state-wise, federal-wise, most countries that will make sure that you actually have been trained to teach what you teach. So most people have certificates from the place that they paid for, right? And what we know from regulated industries is you can pay a school to train you, but then someone else who's not financially invested in that has to say, yes, you know what you're talking about. That doesn't exist in the Pilates world. There is a nonprofit that does it, but actually no one makes sure that any of us do it. So when you see the NCPT behind my name, it means I just, out of the goodness of my heart, went and took a test to make sure that I know what I say I know, and then I have to keep that education up. So you want to make sure that people are trained comprehensively. And the reason is, even if they only teach you on the mat, them understanding how the rest of the system works together benefits you. And Pilates is a system. It's like when you're working with at the gym, we talked about cardio, we talked about weights. There's also the stretch area, right? There's the warm up area. There's heavy lifting versus like doing things more lightweight and more reps. There's a holistic approach to a fitness regimen like that. Pilates works the same way. There's a holistic approach, but has a mat, reformer, and then the other pieces of equipment based on what you need. If you are someone who's postpartum, it's a whole different approach than if you are someone who's perimenopausal. It is like even the Pilates system is. So I want to make sure that I arm you with the things to look at. So look at the website bios. They should say comprehensively trained. That is a specific word, no matter who trained them, whether they were trained classically, which is like how I was trained with Joseph Pilates intentions, or contemporarily, which is a little bit more of a modern approach. You should see the word comprehensive. You should see that they've been trained on different things. If they have the other equipment training and they have been comprehensively trained and they have been trained in 6-9 months versus a weekend, you're more likely to get the results you're looking for if you bring consistency to the practice.
I love that. And exactly what you shared, it's almost uncanny, the overlap within the med spa space, because pretty much anybody from MDs, RNs, nurse practitioners, PAs, naturopaths, various different practitioners, dentists can take a Botox course on a weekend and then start injecting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm an RN, and then I have the CANS designation, Certified Aesthetic Nurse Specialist. So same thing.
Yeah.
Took a board examination, again, out of the goodness of my own heart, to ensure that I have that credential. And you can't get that credential without taking an exam or being in a specialty of plastics for 2 years. Actually, I think it's 3 years. And then you have to recertify through doing ongoing
Yeah.
education. We call these CMEs.
Mm.
And so that's really helpful that you shared that, because Pilates is getting a lot of attention online. It's very trendy. We'll see these kind of like AI memes. I've seen these AI videos of these babes and they're being interviewed and I'm like, it's fake, it's AI. And they're like, yeah, I'm drinking my matcha, I'm going to Pilates. Like,
Yeah.
this is very kind of yuppie mummy territory that
Yes.
we're talking about. And it's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Well, and also like, and what is happening is like, I love that people are so excited about Pilates. I love that it is rising up. But then the next thing that comes along is the equipment, which is now anyone is like, oh, I'll just make a piece of equipment. Like one of the big, I think it's not Life Fitness, but one of the big manufacturers for gym equipment is now making a reformer. So I Googled it because my girlfriend's is in the spa space. And she's like, oh, what do you think about this? I said, I think it's probably going to look like a reformer, but it's not going to move like a reformer. And the reason I say that is engineers are not Pilates instructors, right? When my teacher, who's with Joe Pilates, was working with the engineering team with Balanced Body to make the reformers close to what Joseph Pilates created, it took them multiple years. It took a combination of them measuring his equipment and then him getting on, because now the material is different, right? Because the material from 50 years ago versus what we have access to today. The spring manufacturer is different. The springs that are on the reformer you're lying down on, that is different. So if you have a spring that is more springy or less springy, it's going to change how the equipment works. So just because someone can make a reformer because they have an engineering degree or access to that stuff doesn't mean it will move like one. And the differences matter. So if the reformer is too low to the ground, if you have hip issues or knee issues, getting down on that piece of equipment is going to be a problem, right? If it's too high, it's going to affect being able to do things that come off the equipment. If the foot bar is vertical, straight up and down, that's going to put you more into your hip flexors. We're talking about how Pilates can make you prettier. Let me tell you, tight hip flexors with a pulling on that low back is not going to help your posture. It's not going to make you look good, and you'll be in pain, which will show on your face. So, right, like we want the foot bar to have an angle so we can access the hamstrings and glutes. I am so proud to be 42 and a half, and my butt is so high and it's so lifted, and it's not because I did a Kardashian squat. It's because I know how to access it from Pilates. So if the equipment is using too short of straps and loops versus handles, now we're going to break at the wrist, which is going to make your shoulder head come forward, which is not going to give you the postural benefits you said you wanted, that Pilates said it could give you. We have to be able to work with the equipment in specific angles. And so I just want to say, like, if you're looking at a $300 reformer from Costco, may I suggest you invest that money in sessions with a teacher until you can find a reformer that's quality, that these things cost thousands, that you can have for a lifetime.
Oh, I'm so glad that you did that comparison between a $300 reformer and, proper reformers are a couple grand.
Oh, mine is almost $5,000 before
Mm.
it's shipped anywhere. It's $5,000. Yeah.
Here's the overlap in the med spa space, everybody. Well, there's a couple of knockoff technologies out there. Really good laser equipment to take care of reds, browns, stimulate collagen and elastin. Really good equipment is the equivalent of buying a Ferrari
Right.
in a clinic room, right? Anywhere from $100 to $250,000 for a really good piece of equipment that's going to get the job done. And then there's other clinics that buy lower quality technology or even counterfeit technology. And I'll have providers reach out to me and be like, hey, I got this laser and I'm learning on friends and family in my basement and I'm having this issue. I'm like, oh my
I mean,
gosh.
I'm not even in your space, and I'm like picturing it in my space, and my stomach hurts.
People just don't have this discernment. And the same thing goes with the equipment or even supplements that we have in our
Mhm.
cabinet. So, number one, you don't want to be going to a med spa that's purchasing their equipment from like Alibaba or Amazon. Like, sure, certain things are purchased, whatever, not a big deal. But when it comes like actual technology that needs to be properly calibrated, it needs to be focused to be for that technology to be attracted to a certain chromophore of, say, for example, reds, browns, and water. Um, it's really important. And also with injectable products too. If I actually will go on Facebook every now and again, and providers are selling off some of their equipment. So if you are um, a fellow aesthetic nurse or aesthetic doctor and you own a practice, like reach out to me. But number one, you want to be purchasing directly from the manufacturer. So that's what I also recommend with what you said about the reformers,
Yeah.
to get access to good quality
Well, there's
pieces
also
of
like
equipment.
I'm sure it happens in your space as well. There's knockoffs, right? So like
Yeah.
I have connected myself to the largest manufacturer in the world because they make both classical and contemporary equipment, and I have affiliated with them so I can offer people discounts. Of course, I get paid on that. But the reason I do that also is if you buy from them, one, you're not getting a knockoff, and two, the lifetime warranty is there, right? Like the warranty on the different parts, obviously springs need to be replaced and things like that, but it's there. When you buy used, that immediately ends. But when you buy some from someone else who's saying it is this company or saying it's that company, it's quite possible it's a knockoff. And I'm sure the same thing happens in your space. And so what happens is when the equipment does not match what it's supposed to do, you don't get the results. So you are actually just wasting time and money. And worse, you could be injured. Similar, probably like you could be disfigured, I'm sure, in what your space is. And so, like, what I don't want people to do is go, oh my God, Pilates is a thing that's going to make me look like spy or whatever the kids are saying today. Like, it's going to make me look so good. But if you're cheaping out on that, then I just caution you, because you could injure yourself. You could hurt your back. You could hurt your shoulders. Like, things can't happen, especially when it's real Pilates won't do that to you, but undereducated, non-quality equipment can do that to you. Right. So I think it's really important to note that if money is the issue, and the investment, I would say find a good studio, go once a week, have a mat practice at home twice a week that costs $0. So you don't need to have the fancy mat, although I would recommend you invest someday. But there are pieces of equipment that don't take a lot of space that are like a spine corrector is about $700. I know that still sounds like a lot of money, but I get on my spine corrector 5-6 days a week. It takes 5 minutes of my time. So you don't have to have a ton of time. You don't have to have an hour-long workout. And it really does work my thoracic spine strength. It helps challenge my legs. You can do a whole workout on in 20 minutes. And you could have that. It takes no space. It can lean against the wall. It can hang in a closet, right? A wooden chair is about $1,300. You could do a full workout on that, and does have springs. And those don't take up a lot of space. They're still an investment, but they're something you can do in addition to going somewhere. So instead of spending 5,000 on a reformer, you can invest in going to a reformer studio once a week, do your mat practice and something else at home, and have quality Pilates that will get you the results you're looking for.
Love it. Well, let's shift gears now into, can Pilates make us more attractive?
Do you want to
I
hear a
was
funny story?
I would love to actually, well, yeah, I want to hear your story, but I also just quickly want to mention this, that I was in the clinic. This was a couple months ago, and one of my patients was coming to see me, and I was about to do some rejuvenation for them. And I was noticing some facial asymmetry.
Hmm.
And it's like that side of the face had just like a little bit more of like a pull
Mm,
downward
mm.
of the lateral brow, the corner of the mouth, the jaw. The neck muscles were actually more engaged on one side. And then I noticed there was some shoulder asymmetry. So I asked her, have you had a shoulder injury? She said, yeah, I actually have. So what I want to talk about with regards to how can Pilates make us more attractive, I want to talk about posture,
Yeah.
and I want to talk about how tight fascia can
Yeah.
actually lead to asymmetries in the face and asymmetries in posture, because symmetry actually helps us look more attractive, not just our brows
Yeah.
being at the same level, but also our shoulders and our posture. So
Yeah.
love to hear from your take on that.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think it's fascinating how long it took us to understand how important fascia is, right? I remember when I was actually in school, I actually started as like a minor in a major in kinesiology, which meant that I got to work on like a cadaver, and they're like talking about the fascia, and you just throw it on the ground. You just got to get rid of it. It's in the way. It's taking up right? And now we know, like, oh my God, how important it is. And if you are noticing that you are continually having injuries on a certain side of your body, or actually they could even zigzag up, right? From ankle to opposite knee to opposite hip and to shoulder, that is a sign of, yeah, you could be clumsy, sure, could be your gait, but oftentimes it's an imbalance in how you're working your fascia. And so what's really cool, I used to train a very, very amazing expert in fascia. She would come to my studio, and she wasn't trained classically like I was. So she was coming to just be taught how I taught Pilates. And my foot bar in Pilates, if you look at foot bars on the reformers, oftentimes they're really thick, they're really big. My foot bar is like the width of a barbell, right? Small. You can make your fists around it. Why does that matter? The way you place, and there's no padding. Why does it matter? Because there's no barrier between the bar and your feet, and it massages your fascia from the first exercise, footwork, toes, arches, heels. It's massaging the whole fascial line, starting with your feet all the way up your body. And so Joe Pilates might not have had any idea what fascia was, but somehow intuitively, if you look at the work that he does, it is designed to wake up, open up, and balance everything from the fascial into the muscles and through the whole body. So people get really annoyed with Pilates instructors because they're like, some people will say like, lift your leg from your stomach. And they're like, your stomach doesn't do that. And it's like, well, anatomically speaking, technically, no. What they're trying to explain is that we actually have the center. The Pilates center is your abs, muscles around your hips, inner thighs, inner thighs, hamstrings, glutes, yes, your hip flexors, muscle on your shoulders. When you move from your center equally, symmetrically, you are going to balance imbalances, which is going to help you have that symmetry you're looking for. And that person who's got that shoulder thing, the more her shoulders become balanced on her body, likely the release of the fascia to release all the tension that was being pulled down on her face would happen. And it's quite fascinating. It's quite amazing. And what you don't have to do is go, I'm going to go do my fascia work, right? Like you actually get to combine it with the efforting of moving your body and doing some functional movement.
And I would love to just encourage each and every one of you, like, look at yourself in the mirror. And when you're at the gym and you're doing exercises, I do this all the time, like whatever exercise I'm doing, and I lift heavy, and I'm not back to where I was pre car crash, but I'm making good progress and putting as much muscle as I possibly can on. But I'm always looking at my form,
Mm-hmm.
looking at the position of my shoulders and everything, just making sure that everything is symmetric.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I saw this one patient and she relayed she did have a shoulder injury, it was making her face more asymmetric. The
That
more,
is
again,
so,
just to
I mean, I
reinforce
believe
this.
it, but that is so fascinating because
Mhm.
I mean, because that's not my line of work, I probably would have been like, your shoulders nice enough your face, but what a benefit that we could do together.
Yeah. And I think I was able to notice that because, not only am I a certified aesthetic nurse specialist, I'm also a podcaster and speaker in the space of anti-aging, longevity, and biohacking, and write research papers on this stuff. So it's not just, okay, what can we do from skincare with injectables, with lasers, with surgery, but it's what can we do in our overall lifestyle and the way that we move to also make an impact everywhere else. I'd love to ask you this question, Lesley. If you were to compare someone who is 60 and up, because most of those who are tuning into the show are more mature,
Mhm.
but also there's some younger ones in the mix, which this stuff is great to get information on from a preventative
Yeah.
perspective. But most of the audience members are more mature. And I've loved studying radiance in my patients over the years and just noticing, what makes someone in their 60s to mid 90s more attractive.
Yeah.
I would love for you to share with me when you say see someone who in real life does Pilates versus doesn't do Pilates, how do they look different?
Mm. So just from the looks of it, someone who doesn't do Pilates at that age is going to have more kyphosis in their upper back. It will become unreversible or irreversible. That means shoulder heads are rounding forward. They also start to shuffle versus step. They have a much, yeah. So it's that humpback, that hunchback thing that kind of happens. And your thoracic spine does it, like your upper back is technically rounded. Like if we look at how the skeleton is, it is that way. However, it can extend. And we need to make sure that we are extending as much as we can for as long as we can so that we stand upright. um, Also, people who, my clients who started earlier versus started later, because I had many clients who I got because they started Pilates in their 40s. So when they met me, they've been doing Pilates longer than I've been alive. And I was like, oh my God, what can I teach them? And then I had people come to me after 60. And let me tell you, I was lucky enough, very blessed to work with someone who started Pilates at 60. And I worked with them till they're 72. They were taller. They were more agile than the day that they started. Had they started in their 40s, like my other clients who were 10 years older than them, my clients who were 80 something were doing more moves, were more agile, less likely to be pain, less likely to have aches, just looked younger because they were a bit more bouncy, right? Like it's like they had new shocks on. There's a big difference between what their bodies can do when you start younger. So what they'll say is after a certain age, you're not allowed to flex or extend your spine, which I think is hilarious because you flex and extend your spine all the time. They'll say women over 55 can no longer do load bearing weight upside down. I don't understand that rule because if you're 54 the day before and you're doing Pilates and you're doing it and you turn 55, what happened in that one day? So some of this research I think is outdated. That being said, the sooner you start doing these movements, the longer you get to do them versus the older you are when you start, we are limited. And it does mean, and this is the same thing in your space, this is the same thing in heavy weight training space. You actually have to put in more effort and more time and be even more diligent about being consistent than the person who started years ago. The woman who I got to work out with, who's 83, I got to work out with her. She used to be in Joe Pilates studio as a young girl. She was doing the exact same workout I was doing at 32. Same workout versus my client who was 72 was doing a third of what she was doing, right? Just based on where we're starting. So what I will say is people who started younger, the reason they'll look younger is that their joints and their muscles are just more agile, than the people who start older. When you look at people, I'm never shocked by wrinkles. Don't really bother me. Like I'm never like looking at someone who's got wrinkles and go, oh, they're this age or that age. Their ability to step up on a curb. Do they have to look down? Do they have to shuffle their feet? When they grab their bags, what does that look like? That is what to me shows age. And also, it's not as beautiful, right? We're kind of like, oh gosh, they're gonna fall over. So to me, I'm really like your spine is able to do 5 things: be able to flex, extend, be as tall as possible, twist, and side bend. These are the 5 spine shapes we have to do. We want to do with our spine as much as possible. You always want to be the longest version. So I could slouch, which would be flexion, or I could sit really tall and then I could bend my spine from my center. That would be stronger, obviously, and safer. If we don't work on those spine shapes, as we get older, we lose them. And that is also going to make you look older, because now at the grocery store, you are not turning to grab something off the shelf. You are like with like your upper body and your feet stay in place. You have to shuffle to face the thing and then shuffle back, right? So it's really important to me that we actually address that. The aesthetics of how we look is from the inside out. And that means from your skeleton and from the joints and from the fascia, like you brought up. How agile, how lubricated are we?
Great. Love this. So the aesthetics we think is how we look on the surface. But really, if we're considering how can we become our most attractive version, which is what the School of Radiance podcast is really all about,
Yeah.
it's actually the aesthetics of how you move through and navigate life
Mm-hmm.
with our posture,
Mm-hmm.
with our nervous system mastery.
Mm-hmm.
Do we move in a very slow, controlled, masterful way?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we kind of like ataxic and jittery and we don't have smooth motions?
Yeah.
So the discipline that comes with balancing your cardiovascular practices, so like jogging, or I do a lot of sprinting, or the treadmill on an incline, getting the steps in, getting the weight bearing, lifting heavy, getting that muscle hypertrophy happening, I think is really important. Getting that flexibility. And what I love about Pilates, and we also get this with yoga, but I think there's more to Pilates, that we can actually get some more resistance happening with the
Yeah.
bands.
Yeah.
But we're getting a lubrication of not only stretching the fascia, which is beautiful, but we're actually lubricating the joints. We're actually lubricating the space between our organs as well,
Yeah.
which we don't think about. We're not really going to get from other things, but also what you did mention with kind of like that bounciness,
Mm-hmm.
we do want this as women to support lymphatic drainage, and
Yeah.
jumping types of exercises I've seen online a little bit more as being something that's good to focus on. But it's
Yeah.
that nervous system mastery, it's that present moment awareness, but also the awareness of what your body is doing at any given moment, I think is going to allow you to come across as more attractive.
Yeah.
It's going to allow you to be coming across as someone who can be taken more seriously, or is going to make better decisions, is going to be more in that leadership capacity as well, just
Yeah.
simply by the way that you move,
Mm-hmm.
with authority, with presence, with expertise.
Surety, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, posture is across the world seen as better posture is seen as more confident, whether you are or not. And your mother telling you to pull your shoulders back wasn't correct all the way. Because if all we do is pull our shoulders back, you can do it with me right now. Your upper traps engage, right? If all you do is pull them back, the upper traps will start to engage. What we actually want to do is we want to pull the shoulders wide. So not pinching the shoulder blades together, which does make my boobs look a little bit bigger, but actually going wide. What that requires of me, and just doing that, my stomach muscles had to engage. Now I've got muscular support of my ribs off of my pelvis. Really good for digestion. I mean, you do not look good, you guys, if you're constipated. We know this already. Okay. The other thing that's so amazing about when you're doing Pilates, real Pilates, you should have time for your mind to connect to your body. You said it, Rachel, like an awareness of how we move. You will learn that in Pilates. And it's not because I want you to know the names of all the exercises because there's a quiz. It's because I want you, when you miss a step, and you'll miss a step. I want your body, without someone having to go left foot up, I want you to shuffle your feet correctly. I want your core to engage, and you all of a sudden are able to catch yourself, right? That is what makes you aesthetically pleasing, younger, agile, more fun. And when you're less likely to get injured, you're less likely to be in pain. The more fun you're having, attractiveness also comes from this energy you put out in the world, that you actually feel youthful. You feel excited. And, we mentioned this before, but like, if we can also talk about you can do Pilates at any time of the day and at any part of your cycle if you still have one, but especially for my peeps you mentioned who are a little older, who might be post that, you doing workouts that amp your cortisol are going to have the reverse effect of the goals of you going to the gym. So you being able to have access to a Pilates practice that reduces that cortisol, but also has all these benefits is so huge in the aesthetics of it. And I think I want to highlight, we've not once ever said weight. And that's important to me because the weight of what you are doesn't matter. If you knew how much I actually weighed, it would shock you. Like people think of a different scale. I'm 5'9". I'll just say 5'9", 160 pounds. I am the strongest I've ever been. I'm the most flexible I've ever been. I have the most stability than I have ever had. And it's not big. And it's because I'm doing Pilates for 20 years at this point. But the more I like pay attention to like, what do I need with my body, where it's at in my 40s with perimenopause, it's like, okay, these are the things. It's going to move the fascia. It's going to flush the system. I'm going to keep the cortisol low. It's not going to affect my sleep. I can do it in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or an hour, depending on what I have time for.
Yeah, I love it. So that's kind of one of the benefits here. Can Pilates help you be more attractive? I think so, because you're getting that reduction of cortisol. You're also getting some great movement in. You're getting that embodiment. You're in your body. You have a self-awareness. The movements are smooth. There's some bouncing. There's lots of stretching. There's resistance. There's lots of really great things happening. I would love to do a little bit of kind of a bonus here
Okay.
because after you were on the show, Lesley, you mentioned you did something that you learned in a conversation here that you tried. So I'd
Yeah.
love for you to share with everybody what that was because
Yeah,
I think it could help people
well,
listening.
it's been such a pleasure. We've been able to go back and forth with our banters and I just love it. So you were on my podcast and you mentioned that you had a rough night's sleep, but you had a hack for that. And I was like, oh my God, I need to know this hack. And you were like, I doubled up on my creatine this morning and that's why I can be here without having the sleep. And you didn't even look like you didn't have like lack of sleep. And it was not even 2 days later that literally, even though I did everything one can do to have great sleep, I just had a bad night's sleep. I woke up at the wrong time, thought about something that I was going to cause work anxiety. It did all the hacks that I have to get it out of my mind and then get myself back to sleep. But I still lost a couple hours. And so there I was, like, I needed to go to the gym. I needed to do these things where things were happening. And I was like, oh, Rachel said to double up on the creatine. So that's what I did. I took 2 doses of my creatine in my coffee with my protein, took it with me, and I had one of the best workouts. I had one of the best days. Did not even like have to go to bed early that night. Everything was great. I was like, I'm not saying I would do it every day, but I'm saying I was so grateful for that day.
I love it. I actually came across this hack, if you have a not great sleep, from one of my friends and colleagues, Dave Asprey. He said, if you have a crummy sleep, take 20 grams of creatine. And the hiccup with that is typically people are taking like 3.5 to 5 grams of creatine. I personally have been on about 5 to 10 grams per day for a couple of months. And I really noticed I noticed the energy benefits as well, especially when I am training. But I did 20 grams to hack a poor night's sleep. And I also mixed it with some probiotics. But what's really fun about creatine, there's oodles of research on this compound, creatine monohydrate, is that there's gummies. So if you're kind of like me and you want to get this little bit of sweetness, I mean, you're sweet enough, but you want something that's going to be beneficial for you and also give you that creatine, well, I do have a solution for you. We have the creatine cherry chews from Organifi, a longtime sponsor on the show. I was beyond excited when they came out with a creatine cherry chew because this is a company I trust. It's glyphosate free. I know the founder behind the company as well, Drew Canoli. This matters. So when I talk about something on the show, like what Lesley was talking about with really good equipment, you want to know the source. Organifi is great. So head on over to Organifi, spelled with an I.com/Varga, and use promo code Varga to save 20% on your creatine cherry chews. And they have 1.5 grams of creatine monohydrate per serving. So you can have them either before or after your workout and feel like you're having a little bit of a snack, like a sweet treat as well. So
I
that's
understand what you mean. Like
fun.
sometimes you're like, I want a little candy, and that's like
Yeah,
having a gummy that's
totally.
getting you the supplements, and then like takes you back to like being a kiddo having like gummy bears. I think that's a win.
I think so too. It's like, do you want to have candy? I mean, when I go to the store and I have like a sweet tooth and I want something, even the healthy or candy options out there are still just like a ton of sugar. It's like,
Yeah,
why not just have a creatine gummy? It's kind of hilarious.
I love it. I think it's like any thankfully, there's so many more options for getting creatine in. I think there was such a long, a drought of like people understanding the importance of it, and like there's like a bad, like, oh, don't do that, you'll lose in the Olympics or something like that. But now we've realized it's not only like essential. There's a huge research study out about how it prevents Alzheimer's in women, especially when you double up on the dosage. So I am a big fan of that. That's why I was like, thank God I started doing it years ago.
Yeah, I've been consistent for now, I think about 8 months with it. And I notice a huge difference with performance and muscle gains.
Mhm.
Lesley, I love having you on the show. It's been your second time here on the show. For those of you who would love to learn more about Lesley's work, she's a pro in the Pilates space. You have some great resources. Where can people learn more about your work, Lesley, and also access your Pilates training videos?
Yeah, so we have thousands of videos out now for free on Pilates, so you can actually do it yourself. In fact, that's what Joe Pilates wanted everyone is to do. So go to onlinepilatesclasses.com. You can also download the OPC app for free. You don't have to be a member to access the free tutorials, the podcast. There's a ton of free resources, free challenges on there. If you want my feedback on your form or want me to help you with the equipment choices and things like that, you do have to be a member in there, but there's so much you can access for free and have a practice depending on what your accessibility is right now.
Yeah. I just putting this out there, I want to put a reformer that you recommend actually on the biohacking page
Yeah.
because I think that this is like a great sustainable option for us to do at, almost any age for physical activity is to do this. I mean, once you invest in the reformer, you can do it at home.
Yeah.
But I think the resources that you're creating are pretty fantastic and makes it accessible to so many. So
Mhm.
everybody tune into the show notes to get her links. And just to repeat that, she has opc.me/40.
Mhm.
And a huge fan of Lesley, your work, and everything you have to say.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm a fan of you and I love our conversations. It's also fun because you ask such good, challenging questions. They're not such surface based. We can dive really deep and make sure that people are educated so that if you're informed, then you can do anything you want. You're not a victim to what people are selling you out there.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know we got to wrap up. You have some other things here. Just really grateful for you, Lesley, and for you tuning in to the School of Radiance podcast, learning all these things to help you just look and feel your best. You're going to take this information into your life and your daily practices. And you might also share little tidbits of information here and there. Learn more over at theschoolofradiance.com, where you can access my skincare checklist when you sign up for my newsletter. It's free. It's a fantastic resource. My 30-minute biohacking to great skin videos there too, and lots of other ways that I can support you on your skin and rejuvenation journey. Until next time, stay high vibe, stay beautiful, stay radiant, and I'll see you again right here on the School of Radiance podcast.